Good morning, my relatives. My name is Harry Hopkins. I'm an enrolled member of the MHA Nation, and I call the Spirit Lake Nation my home. I'm also an alcoholic in recovery. Taking a page out of a few of my classmates' playbook here, I'd like to start my presentation by asking a couple of questions, if you'll oblige me. Has anyone heard of the names Christopher or Jaden Ivey? How about Caleb Starr? Maybe not that Caleb Starr. I was hoping, but you might. Okay. Well, anyway, those three names I just mentioned were three individuals that lost their lives, and their lives were taken by drunk drivers. The Ledger in Lakeland, Florida, reported back in 2016 that Christopher Ivey and his young son Jaden, only 4 years old, were driving home from visiting Christopher's mother, Jaden's grandmother, and they stopped at a red light, and her vehicle was struck by a vehicle driven by William Gainey, who was under the influence of alcohol and oxycodone. Unfortunately, the Iveys were pronounced dead at the scene. As for Caleb Starr, he was a Michigan State Trooper. And the Iona Sentinel Standard reported that Caleb was responding to a call, was on duty when he was responding to a call in Boston Township on the night of July 10, 2020, when his vehicle was driving along a highway in a vehicle that was driven by Thomasina Jones, who happens to be a friend of mine and a former co-worker, crossed the center line and struck Caleb's vehicle head-on. He would succumb to his fatal injuries later that night at the hospital. Jones just happened to be driving this vehicle at over 100 miles per hour and had 3 times the legal limit in blood alcohol content. These examples I share, while extreme, are very real and are just a few of thousands of others that happen on a yearly basis. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, alcohol is the leading cause of traffic fatalities. Drinking and driving kills 28 people a day in the United States. That rounds up to about 1 person every 52 minutes and over 10,000 lives lost per year. In the particular examples I just shared, you may be asking what happened in a court of law to those individuals that chose to drink and drive on those fateful days. William Gainey is currently serving a 30-year sentence, while Thomasina Jones was sentenced to serve 27 to 51 years for her convictions. Again, my hope is sharing these tragic stories today is that you think twice before deciding to get behind the wheel if you've had anything to drink or consumed any other mind-altering chemicals. If you'll indulge me for a second, though, in doing my research, I got to thinking about why we, I can only speak, as a recovering alcoholic, share some of my experience. I've driven drunk many times. Something I'm not proud of at all, especially in the context of this presentation. I've had a lot of time to reflect on, the decisions I made when I was in active alcoholism. Got me thinking why. So I started researching that a little bit. In their March 2021 paper, For Better and For Worse, the Role of Negative Affect in Decisions to Drink and Drive, authors Catalina Copez and Mark Johnson found that directly relevant to drinking and driving, reminding people of the negative consequences associated with driving drunk, i.e. DUIs, fatal car crashes, inadvertently increased their willingness to drive when they were motivated to get home in an efficient way. Which I found very, very interesting. And that conveniently driving was emphasized as the most instrumental means to fulfill the motivation of achieving this goal, just getting home Thus, this risk information triggered a response in favor of their goal. But then again, sometimes it's just a matter of people being selfish and dangerous, you know, like myself. Like I said, I've driven drunk countless times, and the law has caught me in the act many, many times. Like I said, am I proud of these facts? Not, absolutely not. You know, I'm not only put myself in danger, but the lives of others as well. Which is why I chose this particular topic. But what are ways that we can improve upon the tens of thousands of deaths yearly from drunk driving? Well, firstly, and it's the point I want to drive home, is just simply don't drive. Don't drink and drive. You know, get a designated driver. You know, if nobody wants to drive you around while you're drunk and living your best life, you know, there's the invention of ride-sharing apps. You know, Uber, Lyft, even old school taxis. And I personally find the ever-evolving penalties for these crimes, vehicular manslaughter, DUI murder is even the name of one of these charges when lives are lost because of drunk driving. The ever-evolving, you know, penalties for these crimes. Like the examples I just showed you, 30 years for a guy choosing to drive drunk. My friend that's serving 27 to 51 years. You know, their lives are changed forever. But then you consider just a decade ago that the penalties for these crimes was 3 to 7 years. So the law is starting to crack down on these tragedies. I find that, you know, one of my biggest motivating factor that, you know, to help sway from drinking and driving. You know, when I think about, you know, that my hope is that one day that we'll start to see a downward trend in these drunk driving convictions, and more importantly, alcohol-related traffic deaths, through people ultimately changing how they feel and make decisions regarding, you know, drinking and driving. And I was thinking about one of my relatives back home just this past year. You know, he buried his 8-year-old daughter. Actually, it was just in July. And other families that have had to bury their loved ones as a result of, you know, people driving drunk. You know, I think about my friend that I mentioned a couple of times now, and I think about, you know, I got two guys I call my brothers back home. You know, they were convicted of the same crimes as these people I've mentioned. You know, they served their time, and now they're back home and back in society. And how they mentioned that this is something that they have to live with the rest of their lives, that another person lost their life because of an action, you know, that they chose to make. You know, families and lives change forever. So once again, my relatives, my hope is everything chooses to go in the route of designated drivers, ride sharing, and just plain old drink and drive, what it ultimately comes down to. You know, the decision you make, you know, like I said, can change the lives of yourself and others forever. I appreciate your time. Thank you.